Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at this 2020 Ford Expedition. This is your everyday big SUV, whereas most sport utility vehicles are now more crossover-like. They're built on unibody platforms. The Expedition here is one of a few remaining full-size holdouts that are built on a body-on-frame platform. This thing shares many of its components with the Ford F-150. It would count its #1 competitor as the Chevrolet Tahoe and Suburban. Additionally, you've got the GMC Yukon and Yukon XL, which are basically identical to the Tahoe and Suburban. This is a normal-sized Expedition. You could call it just the standard Expedition. It would pair pretty well with the Tahoe in terms of size, but you can also get an Expedition EL that is longer, and it would compete with the Suburban. There are 4 Expedition trim levels for 2020. There's the XLT, there's the Limited, which is what this one is. There's a King Ranch model, and then there's the top-of-the-line Platinum trim. For 2021, apparently a base XL model will be joining the ranks, and interestingly enough, it'll be available as a 5-seater, so you'll be able to get the Expedition without a third row starting in 2021. Anyway, the standard engine across the board for the Expedition is Ford's twin-turbo 3.5-liter V6. That's the EcoBoost V6. That's pretty popular in the F-150. In this application, it makes 375 horsepower and 470 pounds-feet of torque, and it comes paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission. In addition to being a limited trim, this one comes with the FX4 package, so it has some off-road features, different wheels, it has some underbody skid plating, it's got mild all-terrain tires, and a limited slip rear differential. Anyway though, let's do a little tour of the Expedition, and then we'll take it on a drive. Looks here are all around pretty inoffensive. Of course, you don't buy an Expedition for its styling, you buy it for its utility. And this thing can seat up to 8 people, and it can tow up to 9,300 pounds. So for most people, Ford's 3-row crossover, the Explorer, will be enough, but with the Expedition, you get more power, more space, and greater towing capacity. Check out the cargo area here, and one of my favorite features of the Expedition is this. You can open the rear glass independently from the rest of the hatch. So you can see it's just the glass that lifts up there. And that's nice if you just have to reach in here and grab something. Of course, it's pretty deep down in there, but in a lot of cases, it's still going to be easier to just open that rear glass than it is to open the rear hatch. To open the rear hatch, the handle is down here. So you pop that. It's power, as it is on most moderately expensive large SUVs. And back here with the third row in place, you can see there's a decent amount of room. I mean, not a ton, but enough. Here's where you put the seats down, so they're pretty conveniently labeled. I'll admit I haven't done this yet, but I can guess here. Third row left seat, second row left seat, third row right seat, second row right seat, second row middle, and then maybe this does all of them? Let's see. So that one takes down the third row in its entirety, and I could have disconnected the third row shoulder belt, but I didn't. So you'd probably want to do that if you're going to put this third row down. But with the third row down, you can see this thing offers considerable cargo space. There's some storage compartments back here, plenty of hooks, some connectivity ports. You've got USB. Here's a 12-volt outlet. Over here, there's another USB port, and then there are further seat controls up on the panel there. Another one of my favorite Ford features is this keypad here on the B-pillar. So I don't know if you can see it, but this lights up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0. And if you don't have your key in your pocket and you own this vehicle, you know the code to get in, you can just walk up without the key, punch in the code, and get in the vehicle. So you're never locked out as long as you know this code. Now that we're inside, we can take a look at the window sticker. So this is a 2020 Ford Expedition Limited 4x4. It's an 8-passenger model. Like I said, all of these come with the 3.5-liter EcoBoost V6. This one is silver with a black leather interior. EPA rates the Expedition at 17 mpg city, 22 highway, 19 combined. Keep in mind that this is a 4-wheel drive model and that it has the FX4 package. So I imagine this changes a little bit for 2-wheel drive models. As equipped, this one comes in at just under $72,000, which is, par for the course for one of these big truck-based SUVs. Speaking of being truck-based, if you look around this interior, you're going to see a lot of F-150 components. I mean, the entire dashboard, the door panels, I think the seats, they're all shared with the F-150, which is fine. The F-150 was just given a redesign for 2021, and it gets an all-new dashboard. I imagine the rest of the interior is new as well, so I'm interested to see how Ford is going to proceed with the Expedition here. It's been on sale in its current generation since 2018, so it is due for an update. I'm not sure if it will get the F-150's new dashboard or not, since that's technically a next generation product and the Expedition would just be getting an update. Not sure. We'll probably have to wait a year or so to find out. Anyway, we'll turn this thing on. Plenty of space in here. You can see the center console is pretty big. You've got a wireless charging pad up here, USB-A and USB-C. Rotary style shifter right here, and just behind it are your manual mode shift buttons. So you'll notice no paddle shifters, no gear selector lever for manual shifting. So you achieve that via plus and minus buttons. That's a little bit odd. Here are your four-wheel drive controls. You've got some different drive modes. This thing defaults to 2 high, but you can put it in four-wheel drive automatic, which would function a lot like all-wheel drive. Here's 4 low, and then this button activates, I think it's just a limited slip rear differential, even though that symbol would imply that it's a locking rear differential. This thing has park assist. It will park itself. I've not tested that out. Cup holders are quite deep. Center console storage box here is quite large. It comes with a tray. You could probably fit a 13-inch laptop in there. Pretty big, lots of space. Altogether, the interior is fine. I wouldn't say that it's one of this vehicle's selling points. Everything works, ergonomics are good, materials quality is good enough, but it doesn't quite wow me, at least not in this limited trim. I have to think the King Ranch and Platinum models are going to be a little bit nicer, but right here, this is pretty much a functional big SUV. Granted, it does have heated and ventilated seats. It's also got a heated steering wheel. You can see that little icon right there. There is a hill descent mode, plenty of active safety features, big panoramic sunroof. So that lets in a lot of light in the open position. These door handles are a little funky, so they don't open like normal handles. You actually grab them and then squeeze. So just like in the F-150, the back seat in the Expedition is cavernous. I mean, I've got more legroom than I know what to do with. Can almost fit, well, part of my forearm between my knees and the seat in front of me. Lots of space. Back here, this is a limited model, like I said, so you don't get a heated second row, but you do get your own climate control. There's even a radio readout here where you can control a volume. And it looks like a few other things from the second row. 2 USB-A ports, and then here is a 110-volt 3-prong AC power inverter. Cup holders on the back of the center console work for both the first and second rows. There's no center armrest here, so those are your cup holders. Big grab handles on the B-pillars here, and I will mention though that these create a pretty nasty blind spot from the driver's seat. This thing does have blind spot monitoring, but plenty of times I've just gone to look over my shoulder, as I tend to do when I'm driving, and you really can't see anything because, well, first of all, this B-pillar is really thick, and then even behind it, you've got this rather large handle. Air vents in the ceiling, you've got your grab handles, lights over on this side because of course you can't have them overhead with the panoramic sunroof there. Let's put up the third row seats and see how much room is back there. So we've got the third row in place, and there are actually 2 different ways to manipulate the second row seat here. So if you want to fold it completely flat, you just grab this and it goes flat. I guess you could get in this way, but I think the way that Ford intends for you to get into the third row is via this handle up here. Pull that, and the seat back doesn't move, but the bottom comes disconnected, and you can lift the seat up, slide it forward, and then climb in here, and Pull this back. I guess there's enough room. So my knees are kind of hitting on the second row seat back, and you can recline this even more. And with it reclined, I probably wouldn't fit back here too well, but I've got about an inch there. For kids, this would be plenty of room, and for me, this is, I guess, plenty of room too. This button reclines the third row. That's kind of nice. This moves it back. Yeah. So big SUV, as you would expect. The third row is actually big enough for a fully grown adult. Okay, now to go for a drive in the Expedition. There's nothing about this vehicle that's particularly impressive, but then on the other hand, it's good enough at pretty much everything. It can carry 8 people, it can tow up to 9,300 pounds, 375 horsepower and 470 pounds-feet of torque from this twin-turbo V6 is plenty of power. There's 50, pretty quick. You can feel the turbo kick in at, I don't know, about 3,500 RPM, and it kind of threw me back in my seat there. Definitely a large SUV. Of course, this isn't the biggest Expedition you can get. You can get the Expedition EL. You've got all the active safety features. Blind spot monitoring is especially helpful in a vehicle like this. Power's always on tap from this 3.5-liter EcoBoost. It's pretty nice. One thing I will mention is I'm skeptical of that 19 mpg combined figure from the EPA, only because I've driven F-150s with this engine, and on both occasions, I've taken them on pretty long road trips, and my overall combined fuel economy came in pretty well below what the EPA says it should have. I'm talking like 2 to 3 mpg below. So keep that in mind. Real world results will vary from this 3.5 EcoBoost. Power delivery is pretty smooth. The ride is pretty good, even with this FX4 package, which apparently comes with off-road tuned shock absorbers. So if you need a 3-row SUV, and just looking at Ford's lineup, your options are the Expedition and the Explorer. I think for most people, the Explorer will be the better choice, just because it's a unibody crossover, it's more car-like, it's a little bit more efficient. The current Explorer is a little bit more modern than this vehicle, but if you do a lot of towing, and if you have to haul around 3 rows worth of people relatively often, I think you'll appreciate the added space and the added capability of the Expedition. I should mention the Explorer can still tow, it just can't tow quite as much as the Expedition. If you're a Ford truck person, this vehicle will be pretty familiar to you, so that's maybe a reason to get the Expedition over the Explorer if you're coming from a Ford F-150. All around though, this segment isn't that competitive. It's really just down to Ford and General Motors. The Jeep Wagoneer will be going on sale soon, and that is based on the Ram pickup, so that will be another legitimate 3-row body-on-frame SUV on the market. It's been a while since Ford and General Motors have had competition like that. The production version of the Wagoneer will be pretty well aligned with the Expedition and the Tahoe in terms of price. You've also got the Toyota Sequoia in this segment, which has been on sale in its current generation since 2008. So that vehicle is now 13 years old. Apparently, it'll be given a full redesign in the next year or so, but Toyota seems hell-bent on milking every bit that they can out of the current Sequoia platform. You've also got the Nissan Armada, which is a little bit different. That'll be updated for 2021 with pretty modern technology. That comes with a 5.6-liter V8, makes plenty of power. It's worth a look if you're interested in something like the Expedition, but aren't completely set on buying a Ford product. Okay, wrapping up the Expedition here. I think for most buyers, if you just know that you need a 3-row SUV, I think something like the Explorer or the Chevy Traverse or a Honda Pilot, Toyota Highlander, something like that is going to make more sense for most buyers. But the reason you get an Expedition is if you need lots of space, like lots of space. If you're going to be using that third row all the time, and on some occasions expect to have 3 people sitting across in the third row, yeah, the Expedition might be a little bit better. Like I said, this thing can tow up to 9,300 pounds, which is on par with most trim levels of the F-150. So all around, I would say the Expedition here is pretty competent. It hasn't exactly blown me away in any particular area, but then again, I don't have too much to criticize about it either. I will say that it's probably due for an update, and I expect that that will come in the next year or two. But for now, if you need a big full-size SUV with 3 rows of seats, plenty of cargo space, and significant towing capacity, I think the Expedition is definitely worth a look. I'd also check out the new Tahoe. That's going to feel a little bit more modern than this. You've also got the Sequoia, which people love for its reliability ratings, and the Nissan Armada is kind of a niche offering as well. So there are a few options in this segment, but the Expedition and the Tahoe are definitely the volume sellers. And if you need a big SUV, the Expedition is definitely worth a look. Thanks for watching.